everyone can stand for the invocation.
Let's bow our head. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, it's again because at the end of this day that we bow our heads to thank you for being to see the light of this day. Our Father, we ask that you be with us in this meeting, let everything be done according to thy will. And, oh Lord, we thank you for the days that's past and gone. And we pray in thy name. Amen. Amen.
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first thing on the agenda is reading and approval of the previous minutes. I assume everyone's had a chance to read those.
I make a move we approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to approve the minutes as written. All those in favor, right hand. Motion carries. Okay. The second thing is old business, and we don't have any. And on new business, Richard, would you like to tell us something about that?
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate your time, Ms. Holmes, and if you don't mind, I'll just lay down some ground rules in general about the meeting. I'm Richard Osborne with Pickens County. I'm the Planning Development Director. If y'all will please just keep in mind, I'm addressing the chairwoman, and anybody is welcome to speak for or against on any of these cases. This is not just a public meeting, this is a public hearing, and we've got some sheets of paper where folks have filled out if they want to speak or might want to speak. And so the chairwoman will give your name, and if you don't want to speak, just say no thank you. But if you do, if you will, please, you know, I mean, you're welcome. Everybody's welcome to speak. You know, I mean, if you want to speak for 5 or 10 minutes, that's fine. And each side will get equal time, and so there is time for rebuttal for the applicant. And if on any of these cases the applicant wants to reserve their constitutional right, they're welcome to do that. For all these cases, I'll note that they have been properly advertised in terms of newspaper ad, letters to adjacent and adjoining property owners, sign on the property, and I'll note that everything in the case file is to be included in the record. Also, this meeting is being videotaped, and so that's to be included in the record. So if anybody wants to speak but maybe has not filled out the form, when a case is heard, that's fine. Just raise your hand, let me know. I've got additional forms. So again, I want everybody to be given the chance to speak. The first case is a rezoning application. Saralynn DeMarcus submitted an application to rezone a surveyed 3.5 acre portion of a total of 47 acres. This is case number RZ7181244. And again, this is located at 3429 Upper Bethany Road off Highway 108. Current land use district, and in Pickens County, for whatever reason, instead of zoning, we call them land use districts. So the current district is agriculture, AG, and the proposed rezoning is to RR, rural residential, as a surveyed area of the larger tract. The intent is to sell the house, which is located on this smaller 3.5 acres piece, and the single-family house was built in about 2011. In reviewing the criteria to consider for rezoning, compatibility with adjacent uses and districts, proposed rezoning for residential, RR, rural residential, may be suitable in light of existing residential use and districts nearby. In terms of property value, subject property may have a reasonable economic development use as currently zoned AG agriculture. Suitability, proposed district may be suitable given that there are single-family residential uses and districts along Upper Bethany Road. Information is not readily available to staff for vacancy and marketing. Evidence of need. The proposed application may promote the public health, safety, morality, or general welfare. Public facilities impacts. The proposal may not result in an use causing an excessive or burdensome use of an existing street or utilities. Consistency with the comprehensive plan. And I'll note what we've got here in the room is, in this corner is the existing land use map, which serves as our current official zoning map. And then behind the audience, we've got the future development map, which shows for different areas the comprehensive plan for 2018 to 2028. It shows the entire county. The areas in white are incorporated areas, Nelson, Jasper, Talking Rock, which have their own future plan. So that's the future development map that we use. So for this first rezoning case, the comprehensive plan rezoning to RR is consistent. Staff recommends that the application to rezone a 3.5 acre split out of parcel 063125 from agriculture, AG, to rural residential, RR, be approved.
We will now open the public hearing on this particular going to be rezoned. Mr. DeMarcus, are you here?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you like to read this?
This is just, we had no idea that it would need to be rezoned before we could sell it. And so we've made applications to do so, and the intent is to sell. We already had the contract and just, of course, delayed our sale, but we're hopeful that it'll be approved.
Any questions? Any questions?
No, okay.
Okay, you're the one who filled this out.
Yes,
Yes, okay.
I make a motion that the rezone request be approved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
You got anybody to speak against it or wants to speak for it?
No one signed that, no. Any questions?
I make a motion to accept it or
Okay, second.
No, we got,
Second.
I'm sorry, excuse me, we got a motion by Fowler, second by Hendricks, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All of those in favor of recommending approval for RZ 718-1244, please. Motion carries.
And I appreciate y'all's time, as our office manager either fractured or broke her ankle, so she's not, able to be here tonight, so just kind of be patient with me. Sorry, I'm doing the minutes too at the same time.
That's okay, I think we'll do your thing. Okay, that concludes that public hearing. We'll now open the public hearing for the Brian Smith RZ 718-1245. Richard, would you like to address that?
Thank you, Ms. Holmes. This one's a little different because it's a combination. It's a proposed rezoning with a conditional use request. Brian Smith submitted an application to rezone two adjoining parcels, both owned by the same group, 1893 LLC, of which he's a part. The first tract is one piece entirely, a little over 1 acre, and it's residential zoning currently. The second piece is a surveyed portion of 7.4 acres, proposed to be split out of a total of currently 23 acres. So what's proposed to be rezoned is a total of 8.5 acres. From one is residential, the other surveyed portion is agriculture. Proposed to rezone to commercial, HB, highway business, and obtain a conditional use application to include wholesale trade establishment. This is at 2315 Highway 136 connector. This is adjacent to the Dollar General. Let's see. The intent is to build a 20,000 square foot facility to allow Smith Tool and Design to move their existing business, which they've been in operation for many decades, is about 1.5 miles from here on Highway 53 West. So, this is in the west part of the county. And in terms of criteria to consider for rezoning, compatibility, the proposed commercial HB district may be suitable. It's adjacent to the Dollar General. Property value. The subject properties may have a reasonable economic use. However, an existing residential piece right behind the Dollar General, it may lend itself to commercial rezoning. Suitability, the proposed HB district may be suitable for this area. Vacancy and marketing information is not readily available to staff. Evidence of need, proposed application may promote public health, safety, morality, and/or general welfare. Public facilities impacts, proposal may not result in a use causing excessive or burdensome use of existing streets, utilities, etc. It's on Highway 136 connector, which is a major collector road and is near 53, which is an arterial road. Consistency with the comprehensive plan. This area is identified as the Hinton character area. The Hinton area includes a mixture of land uses, including commercial, especially on major roads. The application to rezone with a conditional use is consistent. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Smith?
Hi. It's good to see you all tonight. I'm Brian Smith. This is my dad, David Smith. He actually started a business way back in the early 80s. But we, as Richard was saying, we've pretty much outgrown our current facility. We've been there since '96. We feel like we're good neighbors to the local community and a good asset to Pickens County in general. We employ 16 people. Our average pay scale is $18.70 an hour. So we offer what we consider to be good jobs for the local area. We've got 40 some odd customers spread around the United States that we bring a lot of money into our local community. And our employees mostly live here, so they spend money locally. And so we feel like we're a good fit. And with your permission, we would like to ask for a zoning change so we can expand our business. And we're here if you have any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Smith? I have one. It says you're going to be test firing these weapons that you're making. Is that going to be done on site?
Yes. And we will suppress them so they won't be loud. That's a concern, I'm sure.
It was when I read this. He's going to test. I'm going to say, well, maybe they're going to do it somewhere else.
Well, we do have a range where we're currently located at, and we'll do that initially at that location.
Okay, how are you going to suppress these?
Just suppressors.
Okay.
Now, it's not like we're going to have a firing range. We test each of our rifles that we sell. We test fire them 3 times. So this is not a constant noise issue. It's just occasional. And it's only during business hours as well.
Any other questions?
I make a motion to be approved.
Second.
Okay, we have a move and a second that RC 718-1245 with a conditional use, be recommended for approval. All those in favor, in my hand. And the motion carries. That concludes this public hearing on that matter. Okay, the third one that we have now is SUSC 718-1246. The public hearing on that is now open. Richard, would you like to tell us about that one?
I appreciate your time. We'll just make sure.
Okay.
Get everybody.
What happens when you come late?
Thank you, Ms. Holmes. Myada Baudry submitted an application for a conditional use request on 3 adjoining vacant tracts that is forested land, totaling about 81 acres. This is on Henderson Mountain Road. Properties are located in less populated section of Henderson Mountain Road, about a mile northwest of the intersection with Pleasant Union. The intent for this request would be to utilize the land as a special events facility that would include tree houses in an Airbnb style environment where they would have 6 to 8 tree houses. The property would be, according to the applicant, maintained in its natural state as much as possible to offer a natural environment of leisure connected to nature, including farm-to-table style cafe, playground, pool, spa, hosting weddings and other activities. The applicants have stated that the existing tree buffering vegetation would remain along the property lines to minimize potential negative impacts such as noise to neighbors. Applicants have stated that there would be a long gravel driveway from the main entrance on Henderson Mountain Road. In the interior, there would be drivable pathways through the area for access in a worst-case scenario for an ambulance or other public safety vehicle. Parking in the interior would be adequately provided at various locations throughout the property. They've listed their days of operation, which would vary depending on what services are offered. In terms of the criteria to review for a conditional use application, first is access to the site. Staff has reviewed the application, conducted site visits, and I also spoke directly to members of the Sheriff's Department, Fire, Emergency Management, Land Development, sent them email requests, just wanting to know if they had any input about traffic, public safety concerns, anything like that. And I didn't get any comments from them. Second is the amount and location of open space. The location of open space and provision of screening may be appropriate. Third is hours and manners of operation. limiting the hours so that all operations cease at or before 10 o'clock may be appropriate. Fourth is public facilities and utilities are capable of adequately serving the use. I spoke to the county water department and talked to them about this section of Henderson Mountain Road. It has a 6-inch county water line that the water department staff said has the capacity and that it would be adequate to serve a potential new development. In terms of septic, of course, before, and this is anywhere in the county, because the county does not have sewer, before we issue any county building permit, septic permit would be reviewed in terms of the the soil and issuance of septic permit. So that would come first. That would be part of the development process through state environmental health. Next one is proposed use in terms of adverse effects on the level of property values, health, safety, general welfare, character of adjacent land uses or general area. Staff will not speculate on potential change of property values. As somebody who's not in the marketing world, the health, safety, and general welfare and character as an agribusiness, an agritourism operation may not be significantly affected. The next one is the physical conditions of the site, including size, shape, topo, drainage. Any proposed new structures would be reviewed based on the topography and drainage, as well as soil type and septic adequacy. There is a small area of designated floodplain on the far northeast part of the land, and the applicants have already been made aware that, as in any part of the county, no structures can be permitted within the designated floodplain. The next one is proposed use in terms of consistency with goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. The proposed use is consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. The 2018 to 2028 comp plan states the following: actively promote and pursue new and innovative businesses to diversify and strengthen the local economy. For this section of the county, which is noted as a rural development character area, one of the land uses includes, land uses include agritourism, agribusiness, recreational facilities. For this section of the county, the comprehensive plan states that one implementation strategy is to work cooperatively with business representatives and landowners for agribusiness and agritourism. Next factor is whether all pertinent and applicant requirements of this ordinance and all applicable state and federal laws have been met. So, this is a big if. This is the zoning process, and it's not directly related to plan review, licensing, permitting, things like that. One way or the other, if this ends up getting approved or denied, any development that gets approved at the zoning stage, that's just the first step. So obviously there's a whole lot of plan review, licensing, permitting, things like that has different layers, federal, state, and local. Next factor is any other factors deemed relevant, and I didn't know any at this time. I didn't get any additional input from other departments, other staff members. In terms of staff recommendations, staff recognizes that one of the goals of the comprehensive plan is promotion of agritourism, agribusiness, ecotourism, and other innovative business opportunities. For the conditional use application request, staff recommends approval with condition that all operations end at or before 10 o'clock at night.
Baudry, here I just finished Baudry. Yes. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did. So I am here with my husband, Nicholas, on behalf of this prospective project. And I anticipate a lot of questions, so I'll just kind of try to be brief with regard to just the background about this project. The project is going to be a family-owned and operated project. The primary purpose of it is to provide a unique lodging experience similar to what we see around these other mountain towns like cabins. However, this is going to provide people with a lodging experience in the trees. So the idea is to have about 6 to 8 tree houses constructed. Primarily, it will first begin smaller, such as 2 tree houses, and then build more after that in the 6 to 8 range. The idea also is to provide a unique experience for people to get away from the city or other surrounding busy areas of Georgia, to come to a secluded space and to be able to relax and have a nature-oriented experience. We think that this 80 acres provides a perfect opportunity for that with mountain views. In line with the spirit of this project, tree houses is something that is we anticipate for nature lovers. So we don't anticipate and we don't plan to take down trees and bulldoze the property. That wouldn't be in line with the idea of the project. So the trees would stay intact. There would be plenty of vegetation and buffering, which we think would eliminate any issues regarding noise concerns. It's also 80 acres. The project will be based in the back of the properties. So again, for noise concerns, we just don't think that that's going to be an issue, particularly because it's a small scale project and it will be in the back of the property. As Richard recommended, there is a conditional recommendation for operations to end around 10 o'clock. I do want to address some of the points that Richard brought up with regard to the events that would be on the properties. We see this as, there's a lot of companies out there who go to the mountains for team building or company seminars and retreats. So we anticipate potentially being able to host that or family reunions or yoga retreat. Events that are nature-oriented and for people who would appreciate being out in the woods in a calm and tranquil space. We do also want to propose having weddings, for example. There are a lot of weddings that take place on farms and barns, and this would essentially be the same idea, but it would provide a unique experience to be able to wed in a platform that's perched in a tree. Again, we don't anticipate that we're going to have 300-person weddings. We think that the events will probably be more intimate, but we do want to have the opportunity to be able to host those and to provide people for an alternative wedding experience that is unique. So that's kind of a general background. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm happy to answer anyone else's questions, but I just wanted to be brief for the sake of your time.
I think it would be helpful if you were to describe the tree houses. How high are they off the ground? How large are they? Apparently you said they were going to have restaurant bathrooms in them. Are they actually going to be attached to the trees or among the trees? Just could you describe them for me?
Sure. I know it's a bit of a unique concept that's not as popular. I'd be happy to explain that. Most of the tree houses that we want to do will be on the smaller size from about 120 square feet to 200. The reason for that is because we want to provide a cozy space. Think hotel room. We don't want it to be any larger than a hotel room. We do want it to be comfortable. So we want there to be a bathroom space with a shower and a toilet in each tree house. We do want to have 2 larger tree houses to accommodate family, for example, if there's 2 parents and 2 small children. So we would like to have the opportunity to build 2 larger ones to accommodate a family, or perhaps if a bride and groom want to do their honeymoon, or if they get married there, to have a nicer space. And those would be up to 300 square feet. The designs are not yet complete because, of course, we're in this process in the initial phases. With regard to the construction, it'll vary on the trees selected. They will be most likely supported with posts, so built on the tree, but also with supporting posts. The contractor who will be hired to build this project is a treehouse construction business. That's their bread and butter. They build tree houses all over the country, and my husband and I actually own that company, and it's a small family-owned business as well. So we know that there is a lot of, as far as the industry goes and the techniques used, we're very well versed in that as far as our builder is. And so from a safety perspective, we feel comfortable with the construction of that. Of course, not to get into the weeds, but the engineering plans and whatnot, we're going to be in compliance with whatever the city and state requires for that.
With the public any questions, then we can open business.
Here's Richard, I mean, do you encounter, what are y'all gonna do with this when it comes to the building permits, just out of curiosity? I didn't know it was quite that elaborate with it.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, Mr. Fowler. So what we've had is an initial scratch the surface discussion between the applicant and the fire marshal, building official, land development officer in terms of any kind of plan review, if they're going to need a land disturbance permit. I mean, we kind of touched on everything, environmental health with septic. We've spoken with the water department, and this is something that would not be what I tried to do as a kid in growing up in the backyard, just kind of putting up in an old tree. I mean, this would be the kind of pressure treated lumber, international residential code compliant, and other, code standards that the state requires all cities and counties in Georgia to follow. And environmental health has already said that each unit, each of the tree houses would need to have its own separate septic system. And the water department, has said that there's adequate capacity. So this is not something that they could just kind of jam in there. It would have to be fully vetted, reviewed. I mean, this would be building plans, by a certified architect. So, I mean, this would be a process. This would not be something you'd start seeing construction tomorrow or next week. This is going to take some time. Again, if. Okay. We're in the zoning right now.
Thank you. Good answer.
Do you mind if I follow up with just one, just to elaborate a little bit? This isn't a novel idea. I wish we came up with it. But this concept is done quite a bit on the West Coast, for example, in Oregon and in Washington and those states that have a lot of natural habitat. So it's a concept that has worked, that is safe, and that is not just, it's a little bit unique, but within the industry it has been done. There are specific consulting companies and engineers and architects that work solely for treehouse construction. So they would be helping with this project just to ensure the safety and compliance.
Any other questions at this point? Okay, we have a number of people from the public who asked. Donna Webb. Yes, please.
I am from Washington State, and I know that the life expectancy of these type of developments is 3 to 5 years. What happens after 3 to 5 years? We've got a bunch of rubbish out there, but we're stuck with it. In addition, you said that you're going to let the people from the city come out and enjoy a tranquil weekend, but it jeopardizes our tranquility.
Ms. Webb, could you address us instead of...
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
But it does. It will impact our tranquility out there. Another thing I'm concerned about, they said that the cabins were going to be 200-300 square feet. I'm interested, I understand there's supposed to be a restaurant. I understand there's also supposed to be some convention platform area. I don't think those would be 200 to 300 square feet. I think they'll be quite larger. And I also have not, I know it's a little early, but before the board would approve this, I think it's important that an impact study be done. I live off Henderson Mountain Road, and in the last 2 months, I've been almost hit 4 times. Coming around those blind curves. I have to literally swing out on Henderson Mountain Road in the opposite direction to turn into my driveway. This is not going to be a good situation for people that are up there on Henderson Mountain that have had a few drinks and hit those roads. So that's about all I had to say, but I thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ms. Wade. David O's.
Yes. Hi. Thank you, Ford. I reside at 137 Tumbleweed Trail, which is also off of Henderson Mountain Road. And I reviewed the limited information that was available to us. And I guess the thing that first struck me tonight when we came here is that we're sort of at the end of the process, which is the big nut. The big nut is, does the county allow someone to do something in an area that's not zoned for what they do? And it seems to me that if that's what we're being asked to evaluate, then we really need something a lot more detailed than the information that's been brought to bear. If, as I've heard tonight, this couple has experience in building tree houses all over the country, where are the pictures? Where is any kind of drawing that would help you to evaluate what these structures are going to look like? It's one thing to say, we're going to put up cabins, but I don't know how many of you have been down to Holbrook Campground in Cherokee County. It looks like cobbles. Okay, so we don't really have any idea of what these structures are going to be. I hear tree houses. I'm not sure how you put a tree house around a live tree that sways back and forth in the wind that we get up here sometimes, but that's certainly something for them to work out. But I have a few other points that I would like to make. The first is, I have 3 key points: noise, traffic, trees. Noise. I understand that there's going to be a limit at 10 o'clock. Okay? When we first came to the county, we let our dogs out. We have dogs that run on 7 acres of property. It's not as big as 80 acres, but nevertheless, we've had neighbors complaining to us when the dogs are out barking at 7 and 8 o'clock at night. And y'all are familiar with this area. Everything travels out here. Okay, you can hear everything around you. We're way back off the road. We can still hear cars climbing up Henderson Mountain Road. So I have a hard time believing that if what I understand is going to bring in live entertainment with amplifiers and speakers and other sorts of things to be able to entertain these up-and-comers from the Atlanta area, how is that going to impact the people that are already in the area and that live in the area because it is the way that it is? Unspoiled, silent, quiet, conducive to wildlife. So I have this concern about the noise. Yeah. My second concern is the traffic. I'm going to echo what Ms. Webb had to say. I've been almost hit a number of times on Henderson Mountain Road. People careen around those blind turns like crazy. And for someone, we're not talking about bringing regulars in here. We're talking about schlepping Atlantans, city people, over Henderson Mountain to get to this property. And that is not a road for a novice. It simply is not. There are too many sharp turns. There's too many ups and downs. That for someone unfamiliar with the road, I think it represents, or I'd suggest that it represents a significant risk of increased accidents. And I understand that the application may entail the idea of school children or children coming in. Are we going to be busing these children in up Henderson Mountain Road? I'm not even sure you could get a bus up there. But it certainly worries me that we be talking about taking a bus full of children over that kind of road. My third issue was the trees. I'm out here, I'll tell you, I'm like the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I love trees. And I'm out here because it's got trees. And I hear and I understand that they're making nice, general, warm statements about trees. But I come from, originally, Forsyth County, which everyone is familiar with the pace of development in Forsyth. And trees are being obliterated there at a breakneck pace. And it hasn't slowed it down for the county to impose tree ordinances that require so many trees. They clear out everything so that it looks like a lunar landscape and just preserve that buffer around it. I think for a buffer, my opinion, I'm no expert, but my opinion for a buffer on a project like this, 100 feet is not too much. Not too much. You're going to be buffering the noise, you're going to be buffering the view, you're going to preserve that area of Henderson Mountain, which is just a dynamite area, in my opinion. On the noise, we're going to mention up to 10 o'clock. I would suggest that if the board is inclined to accept this, that it be ratcheted back to about 8 o'clock, because that is when people here feel like their neighbors are not being neighborly if their dogs are out barking. And so I would suggest that. Oh, and I just to reinforce the point, our letter carrier, who's been serving the area for 15 years, drove off the side of that mountain road, and she wound up in a ditch. And she's now on her seventh operation, and she drove the road every day. Okay, so this is not like Highway 53 or 108 where it's wide and open. This is narrow. It gets progressively narrower as you go through this. And the area that we're talking about putting this in is some of the narrowest way that's out there. That's all I have to say. Thank you,
Mr. Rose. We have several people that want to speak and want all of you to speak, but if you could not address the same thing over and over, it would be pulled up we longer get for that. But by all means, whatever you want to say, do. Jody Walker.
All right. Hello, thank you for your time. I'm not really here to question what these tree houses look like, which I think is important. My question is really to the county. Is the infrastructure there? I know it's been said that it is, but there's no police present on our road. I know we're in the southwest corner, but we see none. We spend a lot of time at our lake, Everybody's familiar with our lake right there on Henderson Mountain. All it takes is 10 minutes for somebody to come sit by there and look at how fast. It's not the amount of traffic, it is how fast and the lack of our police over there. We never see them. My neighbor has had burglar alarms go off, and it's been 45 minutes, 50 minutes before we saw the first responder. It happens, you know, but like I say, that's my only question is, you know, they say the water can fulfill their needs. I know that we spent, what, $2 million, $5 million on repaving that road, which was wonderful. I'll tell you, it was a wonderful project. But every time that pipe busts, which once a month, I mean, at least once a month, I know there's a 6-inch main, but that mountain is continuously moving. There's continuously a burst pipe. But my problem is when there's a burst pipe, they put tar and gravel back in this asphalt road that we spent so much money on. And they're always in the bad spots. And so these people are swerving around. All I'm looking for is a little bit of upkeep, and let's put it back. We spent all that money to do it right. Let's keep it back that way. And I'd like to know kind of a price range. That's my only question for the company, you know, trying to do this is what kind of price range are we looking at to come in and reserve this for the weekend or the, you know, week, however long? Are they going to be 2 days minimum? Are we talking week-long stays, that kind of thing? I'd like to know, you know, the duration and what kind of money we're talking about, just to know what kind of clientele we're looking at coming in our area. I'd like to know, you know, that type of thing. But like I say, I'd like to see more police presence. I'd like to see speed bumps at our lake over there. There's a posted speed limit of 15 miles an hour. I'd like to see somebody try to do 15 miles an hour.
They read it 51.
We all know it's impossible, but hey, let's be realistic. Why don't we repost a 35 mile an hour and we get some people over there to write some tickets? I mean, that's gonna solve a few things. Like I say, I'm not opposed to having these folks come in because I guarantee they've got a good game plan. I've seen this type of thing all over the country. It's a pretty neat little deal. And I would rather, and I'm not saying I'm for this, against, or anything, but I would rather see this than 165 houses go on that 80 acres. I can tell you that. So I appreciate your time. Hope you'll think about that and, you know,
Thank you, Mr. Walter.
Thank you.
Tanya Akins.
Okay. Yeah, I do have some concerns. I don't think the water is gonna, I don't think the infrastructure for the water is there. We live around the corner on the lake, and our water pressure isn't what it should be. Never has been. And so when you add things down that end, what's that gonna do? And the second thing is how are you going to keep these people off the lake? That's a private lake. And we already have trouble with people just deciding they want to hop on it and fish or swim that don't belong there. So how are you going to keep those people off the lake? And the other thing was the noise, because it's dead silent up there at 7:30 or 8 o'clock. So I agree with you on that. And the last thing I want to say is we really don't want them. I went online and looked at what the tree houses were, and sure, they look cool and they look neat, but I don't want them on the mountain.
Thank you, Ms. Akins. Jim Atkins.
They say traffic, noise.
Okay.
I'm again it.
Sue Fuller.
Two things. Something's already been said. Traffic's horrible. I live on Arabian Court, which is down the mountain, okay? It's the first street on the right. My husband tried to pull out from Arabian Court. Somebody came flying over the hill, and they were going so fast. I mean, he had like nowhere to go. They were going like 80 miles an hour and went behind him on Arabian Court, went back out and into the ditch. Very dangerous.
it's not maintained. Police, you know, we beg them. I've stopped and said, please, can you go down there, you know, where they top that hill and go. It's very dangerous and it's very frightening. My question is, okay, you're saying 6, 8 tree houses. So what happens in 5, 6 years? How many then? That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Fuller. Okay. Ms. Brady, probably. Okay, that one is Ms. Brady. BAUD. Okay, that was her. Jane Tatum.
Jane Tatum, thank you for that, Ms. Cook. I just want to follow up with what this lady was saying. When you bring something in like that for tourism, when you bring people from the city into our quiet, peaceful country, 5 years down the road, there's going to be a convenience store. And then there's going to be a mini mall. And Henderson Mountain is not going to support that. Then you're going to have to dig all that up, and you're going to have to put in turn lanes. You're going to have to put in all kinds of shoulder. It's just going to be a mess. 5 or 10 years down the road, our peaceful mountain community is going to be hectic and full of people we don't even desire up there. People coming in and leaving trash. I can hear, I live on the back side of the mountain, and I can still hear traffic. I can hear horns blowing and kids hollering, and you know, and we go down the mountain and we see trash. None of us up there are, you know, people that want to trash our own home. And being part of the board, the HOA board for the Salicoa Highlands community, I say it's a bad idea. I don't want to see progress up there on our small patch, excuse me, our small patch of heaven. I don't want to see strangers up there looting, breaking, destroying, vandalizing. I don't want to see all that. I'm opposed to it, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, sir. Donald Tatum.
I think all my concerns are about covered. I'm just opposed to it totally.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tatum. Donald McRae?
Murray.
Mary, okay.
Well, thank you. My name's Donald Murray. I live at 3844 Henderson Mountain Road, and all 3 of the parcels noted in the conditional use permit abut mine. One impact that the development is going to have is on traffic safety. Having some limited experience in traffic planning, I can foresee that transitioning from a paved road to the gravel road will slow down traffic significantly. Depending on how far onto the property the lodging check-in facility is, there may be some backup of traffic approaching from the south onto the main road. And it will impact local residents' ability to access their own property. More significantly, traffic approaching from the north will be moving downhill at a rapid rate. And with limited sight distance also, downhill traffic at speed doesn't have the ability to stop before possibly impacting stopped vehicles trying to turn onto the property. I noticed that the applicant mentioned that one reason for selecting the property was to allow clients to escape to a facility that would permit them a more peaceful experience, which was pretty much my criteria for choosing the property that I own. And the reason I'm here to speak against the application. The conditional use permit lists 11 p.m. as the cutoff time for events, but the letter of intent says that it's 10 a.m., so there's already been some slippage there. As there are several facilities planned, each with associated lighting, the dark sky aspect would be significantly impacted. And in conclusion, I would ask that the conditional use request be denied. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Murray. Scott Cody.
support for Jeremy. I pretty much second motion, everybody that's already talked, but there are a couple of things that I had. As you guys as the board, I mean, I'm not sure what all plans you even looked at. I've tried to find information online, I've tried to find information. I haven't seen anything about how it's actually laid out. I mean, have you guys had the opportunity to see anything like that yet? Have you guys had the chance to review anything? Because we're talking about, yeah, there's gonna be a buffer. I mean, a buffer could be 5 feet. You know, I mean, what kind of buffer are we talking here? 200 feet, we're talking 200 feet, we're talking, you know, there just seems to be a lot of questions that really haven't been answered from what I've seen and what I've tried to gather for even a decision to be made yet. I think we're way ahead of the game here for trying to make a decision for a conditional use permit on this. The condition should be about 2 pages long at this point, because I mean, I work in construction. I've worked as an architect. I've done this for 35 years, and to have it at this point with one condition that they have to make sure at 10 o'clock, you got to be quiet. There's so many questions that aren't even answered yet. So I'm just kind of asking you all, what all other things have you guys reviewed on it? Is there anything else that you guys have said, oh yeah, well it's got this condition, it's got this condition, it's got this condition? I don't see that. So I'm not sure how you can even make a decision on it yet until a lot of questions are answered and some plans are developed to be able to even start the question process. So I'm opposed to it definitely strongly at this point because I don't think there's enough there to even answer the question yet. That's my opinion.
Ralph Peterson.
Thank you. I'm Ralph Peterson. I'm president of Saralynn Highlands Homeowners Association. First, I will reiterate, every time we turn around, the water lines are being dug up and our roads being ruined. Now, it's not going to support that. The water lines are not, which means the county will have to put in bigger water lines, which means tearing up the road, and everywhere they cross the road to feed somebody is going to be another bump again and all that, plus the added traffic. During the construction phase of this, we're talking about concrete trucks, wood deliveries, everything else, contractors and all that on a brand new narrow road. No, that doesn't make sense. Most of us didn't move out there to have commercial development next to us. Also, in one of the things I said, you were going to have a shop out there. Okay, and that shop is going to continue to build houses. That shop is going to continue to build tree houses for other people, which means more traffic bringing in supplies. Now we know that that little box truck that they mentioned is not going to carry all that stuff in there. Yeah, it's just not going to work. Now, you already said in her presentation that they were going to start out with 2 to 4, and then it's going to be 6, 8, 10, 20, 30, and you're going to ruin our neighborhood, you're going to ruin our mountain. We don't want them here. This is commercial development. That is not commercial property. That is not a commercial area. Everybody out there, and you've heard from everyone, we moved out there for a reason. Peace and quiet, to be left alone. And as president, I can attest, we have problems with outsiders all the time at our lake. I have actually been threatened with a gun trying to run people off. And they're going to bring in these yahoos from Atlanta? Oh, no, 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 no. That's not what we want. And if that shop is going to be running all the time, there it goes. We're going to have the same traffic as when they're developing it. You know, they're just, let me say, I was raised in the land clearing, road building, and site prep business. And I'm going to be honest with you. I have never met a developer yet that was honest. They always start out telling you what you want to hear, and then they do what they darn well please. And the boards, county commission, everybody else, just seems to go along with it. And I've seen it in too many other places that I've lived. And I got to be honest with you. We never dealt with a developer in all the years my dad and I were in business that lived up to their word. Ever. We are vehemently against this, and if necessary, Saralynn Highlands will go to court to prevent this. We are not going to have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Nicholas, you want to wait and address it afterwards? Okay. Susan Simpson.
Which one?
Susan Simpson.
We've been there 48 years, what can I say? The only thing I would say is that you could call us a yahoo from Atlanta, Myada, but we've been there since 2001, and we came for all of the things you said, and we've been a good steward on the mountain.
Yep.
We're quiet, we love the dark, we love the peacefulness, and I'll turn it over to Ken Simpson.
Okay.
If I'm next.
Ken Simpson.
And I'm sorry, I just have a hard time hearing you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We did move up there for the peace and quiet. It's nice to walk outside at night and hear nothing but frogs and crickets. You know, that's nice. I want to talk to you about real world experiences that we've had. We live between the two water tanks. Everybody knows where that is. We're actually the first house on the left uphill from where this property is. So we're next door neighbors, will be. We've had no less than 6 people, different people, walk up the hill and come knock on our doors after they drove off the side of the mountain. When we live just up the hill from the sharpest curve on the mountain. It's a 90-degree turn. There's no buffers, there's no signs, there's nothing that says you're about to drive off the mountain, especially on a rainy day. I've asked for those kinds of signs and things, but nobody's ever taken the chance to do that. It is dangerous. When they repaved the road, I thought, great, it looked like Blue Ridge Parkway. I mean, it was beautiful. There are already 4 patches between the lower tank and my house because the water line continues to break. We've been there 17 years. It has broken no less than 30 times between our house and the lower tank, which is amazing to me because I can't figure out where there's any line left to break, but it does continue to break. There is not sufficient water supply for an additional project down there. I'd question whether there's enough for another house. I've actually had the Pickens Water Department put an extra pump at my house to buffer the county water because every time it pumps from one tank to the other, we lose our water. There's little or no pressure. You certainly can't take a shower. So when there's more usage of the water, is that just going to get worse? Or is somebody going to actually replace the water line to put in something that doesn't need to be fixed every month, every other month, whatever it is? The water line was put in incorrectly. It was put in on top of rock. There was no buffer of sand under the water line to keep it from chewing against the rock as the rocks move. So, you know, I know what's wrong with it, but the water department continues to piecemeal it up the mountain. So this is not going to get better by itself. I'm sorry. No. I lost. Water is a big issue. Traffic is going to be a big issue. The danger of the road itself is an issue. Where the property adjoins Henderson Mountain Road is just past a curve, a big curve at the bottom of the mountain. If there's not an egress lane for that property, there will be accidents there because you can't turn off there, which is, I assume, was planned. You can't turn off there without stopping traffic, and that traffic doesn't stop coming down the mountain. They just don't stop. Well, anyway, I'm not opposed to construction. I like residential construction more than I like commercial construction. I don't think
that it takes 80 acres, 81 acres to build 12 tree houses and a conference center. There's obviously plans for an additional construction. Anybody says there's not, I'd have to question whether they're telling me the truth. So there will be more, and there will be noise. You know, we can, personally, we could probably live with the noise. But the safety factors, the water factor, other issues, can't live with.
Thank you, Mr. Sensi. Jeannie Edwards.
Hi, I'm Gina Edwards. I live at 123 Ace Rose in South Carolina Highlands. And I worked for Marriott for 20 years, so I know all about the lodging industry. And it took me 18 years to get my husband to leave Cobb County and Paulding County to come up here. We'll be here 2 years at the end of this month. And we just love it. I sit on my front porch and I see turkey and deer and guineas running wild, and it's wonderful to go out at night, and there's so many stars and lightning bugs. My grandchildren just can't believe there's so many stars because they're from Forsyth County where they've not chopped down everything, the guy from Forsyth County. So I'm just opposed to it because I've just got to the mountain and I love the mountain and I really don't want it to change. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Edwards. Yes. Would you like to address these concerns? What I hear?
I'm not sure. Is Richard speaking about?
No, you get a chance to address.
I can, if the board members have a question. I just wanted to make sure, because both sides get an equal opportunity to be heard, and the applicant always gets a chance for rebuttal.
All right, I will try to address you guys' concern. First of all, I want to start by saying I understand their concerns, and I hear it. And we love the mountain too, and we don't want it turned into a commercialized touristic Disney resort. That's not the spirit of the concept, and that's not what we're looking to do by any means. So I just want to kind of start by addressing that we too want to preserve the acreage and the forested lands and the natural habitat. So I'm going to try to be brief and address these concerns. I think someone recently he spoke said that it doesn't take 80 acres to develop a couple of tree houses. No, it doesn't. But the idea is to be able to allow these people who are coming to rent these tree houses to have a place to hike and to walk around and to enjoy the property. I pride myself on being an honest person, so I'm not here to lie to anybody or to the county. Yes, the idea is to build 2 tree houses and then to have 6 to 8. As far as having 30 or 40 or 50 tree houses, that's not in line with the project idea. It doesn't correspond with the idea of coming out and having a peaceful, nice, calm experience within the natural habitat. So no, that is not the idea for this concept by any means. With regard to the process of where we are with the permit, we met with the staff as requested here with the county, and we're just doing what the county has told us to do, and we are bending to the will of the county. And so whatever process we need to follow, that's what we're doing. We're here tonight because this has been one of the steps in discussing this project. As Mr. Osborne had addressed earlier, there is still a lot to be done. There are still building permits and septic tank permits and a lot of meetings that will be had in the future. So with regard to infrastructure and the stage of where we're at currently, we are just going in the order in which we were told to proceed. Designs and architectural blueprints and all of that good stuff will be provided. We do have plans as to what we would like these tree houses to look like. From an aesthetic standpoint, we want to use environmentally friendly materials and processes, potentially like a compost toilet, to again adhere to the spirit of this concept. We do have some renderings, but again, we're not in that process yet because we need to see if the permit will be approved to even go forward before we do that. I agree with something that a gentleman here tonight had already stated. I mean, this is an AG zoned property. We would like to propose the building of beautiful structures that will be perched in the trees that will be in the back of the property, not visible to the public. We do not plan to take down the trees. And so it's that or potentially townhomes or a construction of another subdivision or whatever it may be. And that will cause a lot more traffic concerns than two people renting a couple of tree houses during the week or during the weekend. We're not even sure that it's going to be open all week. So from a traffic concern, I do understand your concerns about the safety and us Atlantans not knowing how to drive these mountain roads. I hear you there. I will assure you though that I was born and raised in Georgia. No, I'm not from a mountain city, but I'm extra careful when I'm driving on a mountain road because I'm not familiar with it. I think that oftentimes an accident can happen anytime. We can't control that. But when you're not familiar with an area, people tend to be more cautious. That may be something that can be discussed with the county, whether or not the county would like to consider putting up some road signs, just from a precautionary standpoint. But from a traffic concern, because it is a limited number of structures where it would be normally, I would think, two people coming, husband and wife or a couple to rent these, we don't anticipate a lot of cars coming in. And from the event standpoint, we do anticipate it to be smaller events that would be hosted there. This isn't a concept where a whole lot, it takes a particular couple who would want to go get married on a platform or in a treehouse. So from that standpoint, you know, I can't tell you how often weddings are going to take place, but we would like to have that option. And we're being open and honest with that here tonight. And that's why it's here. Sure, I could have said it's just going to be yoga retreats, which sounds a lot nicer, I would think, than a wedding. But we're here because we want to present every idea that we have in our minds for this project to be open with the community. Let's see here. So I addressed the traffic, the noise. It's the same thing. I mean, we're talking about tree houses. We don't want to develop it into a Marriott by any means or any other large lodging, commercialized, cheesy resort. That's not at all what we're trying to do. And from a noise standpoint, we will comply with whatever the county deems appropriate as far as a cutoff time for noise. Again, we would like to keep, we don't plan to timber the trees, so the vegetation and the trees will buffer the noise. As far as the health and safety of the trees, the construction company knows what they're doing. I'm not going to really go into detail about that, but we're going to keep the trees up. I don't know what more to say about that. As far as the cost of the treehouse rental goes, you guys can go online. It's you know, done in several different states. There's one in Atlanta. People who are renting these tree houses are doing it for an experience, and so they are willing to pay several $100s a night to rent these tree houses. We're not talking about a $50 rental Airbnb style. We want to provide something that's comfortable for the people who are coming to rent these and something that is unique. So it's going to be quite expensive. So again, it might affect the availability and the traffic coming in. Some people might not want to pay that, but that's just what it's going to be. The idea is comfort in the treehouse. convenience stores, gas stations, marts, all of that. I don't want that either. So, you know, we can't control that, but I would be right here in the same meeting opposing that if that were the case. So I can't assure what's going to happen in the future. All I'm here to do is to present our project idea. We have a lot of the same concerns that you guys do as far as the development of the community. But we sure don't want to, you know, transition your mountain into something that it's not. It's a beautiful place, which is why we're attracted to it. Anybody can come in and buy those 80 acres. It's zoned AG. Build a couple of cabins and rent it out for Airbnb, and you're going to have the same issues, and the county unfortunately won't be able to do anything about that because it's private property and people have the right to put their property on Airbnb and rent it out at $50 a night to as many people as they would like. So I think that a lot of these concerns that have been addressed tonight are not particular to this concept. It's just particular to any kind of construction that may happen on those 80 acres that may or may not be controlled because AG zoning allows for this type of construction and will allow for other construction that may be a lot less ideal than some tree houses in the treetops where people can come and enjoy the views. I know you guys don't want a bunch of Atlantans being dragged in, but the reality is that it's a mountain city and a lot of people already come to this area to get away and rent. And so we just want to provide a good experience. Let's see, infrastructure again, water pipes, all of that, you know, there are going to be tests, there are going to be contractors coming in. If a well is necessary and makes more sense, we will certainly do that. If county water doesn't make sense or isn't practicable, then that won't be used. So as far as the bursting pipes and whatnot, again, we're going to abide by what the contractor's recommendations are for that. I also want to just make sure that there's a clear understanding that this isn't something that's going to be open to the public where anyone can just drive through. This will only be open to people who are coming to stay on the property who have paid to come and rent a tree house. It's not going to be open for the public, like a public park, to just come and walk around and use a playground or anything like that. Sorry, I've got a lot of notes here. I think somebody mentioned something about a conference center. There's no intent to do a conference center on this property. And someone else also had mentioned or deemed us a developer, and that's not what we are. We're not a developer. We are coming to develop a project, but we don't do big scale construction and do large subdivisions or townhouses or anything like that, which could potentially be the case because it is large acreage with nice views, and it's a beautiful piece of property, and so anything else could be developed on it if it's not this. So just to summarize, you know, this concept is to provide a tranquil getaway, and so the public's concern is also our concern from a traffic standpoint. Again, I don't see it being an issue considering the number of rentals that will be located on there as well as the noise. I would be happy to answer any other questions.
Does this property actually adjoin Saralynn Highlands?
No. I believe, I'm not sure how many miles away it is. Mr. Osborne may know the distance between the property and that subdivision.
It adjoins Mount Sequoia.
That's the point. Okay.
I'm not sure how far it is from the actual subdivision.
Any questions?
Do you anticipate this workshop that you mentioned in here being operable? I mean, you're building or cutting lumber, whatever, for other, not just, I mean, it's not specific to this project. I'm assuming you'd be building for other projects.
Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me. The workshop, it's more of a storage unit. It will be no more than 2,000 square feet, and it's to store tools, lumber, I think it says in there 3,500 square feet. That's not accurate. It's 2,000 square feet. There will be light woodwork, no painting. It's not a sawmill. It is a small family-owned business with 3 employees. We have a box truck and a E350 with a flatbed trailer. So it's a pretty small operation. Yes, there is good business in the treehouse industry, but primarily it's kids' tree houses that are built, and of course, as you can imagine, the tree houses must be built on the client's property on that tree. So the construction takes place at the customer's property. The only thing that can be done in advance is maybe cutting some lumber, but there really isn't enough you can't prefab an entire treehouse because you build the treehouse on the tree itself. So yes, there will be some light woodwork and storage of the lumber and the tools and supplies. And I believe also, I just want to make sure that it is clear that the workshop is not in partnership and doesn't have anything really to do with this project at all. So I don't think that it's subject to the conditional use permit, since the project, as far as the rentals go, is, from my understanding, what's subject to the permit and being discussed tonight. But I'm happy to answer any questions regardless for that.
Is that correct? It is not subject to conditional? They're operating an individual, different business there?
Yeah, just for clarification, because I think on both sides, but there's been discussion of zoning and what may be allowed by right versus what's being proposed here specifically. What you're reviewing specifically is a proposed special events facility. And that requires Planning Commission recommendation and Board of Commissioners vote. Agriculture allows for a variety of agribusiness and some agritourism by right. So there are, agriculture is a very flexible zoning district. It allows for a lot of different residential, agriculture, agribusiness, agritourism. But when you get into the retreat center, conference center, special events facility type level, that's when it requires recommendation and then board vote. But in terms of what they're talking about separately, that's allowed, that's not relevant. Y'all are voting one way or the other to recommend. So this is not the decision, but to recommend one way or the other, or with one or more conditions on a special events facility.
Cool, thank you. If I may.
Yes.
Four big things come out of this for me. First and foremost, obviously, seems to be the traffic concerns. And there's three components to that overall. Number one, apparently the road's currently not safe. You feel like there's a lack of police presence already in speeding and accidents and what have you. So not only is it already a problem, but it could become more one potentially. Concerns about damage to the road from increased traffic, and then the access to the property itself could create an additional problem. The noise and disruption. Water, we're getting two different things here. Let me back up on the traffic thing, Richard. You had spoken, if I believe you said you'd emailed perhaps the sheriff or somebody to discuss any of that piece of it, just the traffic piece, but you didn't get a response yet.
Right, and of course, any jurisdiction will look at roads and determine, is it just a, very local basic road, or is it a, minor collector where, it's kind of a through road and it, it's got more traffic than just going to somebody's house. Right. Is it a major collector? Is it an arterial? So, 515 and most of our state routes, including like 108, would be an arterial. Mm-hmm. Henderson Mountain Road, the section that, you remember, you go all the way. If you keep going on Henderson Mountain Road, you remember it becomes Pleasant Union and you go back into Cherokee County. So that portion of it would be a major collector because you've got many subdivisions on that road. It's the straighter section, although it does have curves and it does have topo change. But that's the much better section and higher traffic volume. And then the last mile, from where you have to turn, you have to know to turn on the Henderson Mountain Road to stay onto it, to the proposed area is approximately 1 mile. And so that would be, the minor collector section, because it's got more curves, more topo, less traffic. But Henderson Mountain Road in its entirety, all the way from, the far west side where it comes out on 53 at Old Motorcycle Bob's, all the way to 108. It's a collector road, so it's not a local road.
Well, I guess the nature of my question was really more towards if you got any input about any department's thoughts on what the impact of this would be from their perspective, from the department perspective.
The only note that that the roads department staff mentioned to me was that at that intersection, 1 mile from the subject track, where you have to know to turn right to stay on the Henderson Mountain Road if you're coming from the 108 portion, at that part, instead of having just a, 4-inch, 6-inch high lettering, green and white type sign, roads department definitely, at county, at our expense, I could get with one of their staff members and have probably a yellow background with maybe black lettering, and the black lettering might be more like 8, 10, 12 inches high, essentially saying when you're driving that way, Henderson Mountain with a big arrow, so that folks will know that they need to turn there. So that's something that's very doable that we can do in-house as county staff. Yeah.
Okay. And then the water issue was the other thing, one of the other things that's used, and there seems to be a discrepancy between the property owner's current experience with that, number of repairs, questions about their own water pressure existing, but you said you spoke with someone in the water department, and they're saying that there is capacity.
We've got new houses being built on and off various sections of Henderson Mountain Road. Again, all the way from 53 to the 108 end, we've got new single-family houses being built right now.
Serviced by that line.
And there's not a significant challenge. And in terms of future capacity, water staff did not foresee any challenges.
I'm sorry, did you say serviced by that line? Did you answer that question? I didn't hear you.
All these houses you're referring to are being serviced by that line.
Right. For example, it could be back towards Arabian or Henderson Woods section, or it could be all the way on the other side, like where Loblolly and Jerusalem Church comes in at, or all the way towards Old Motorcycle Bob's, Twin Tanks gas station. At various sections, new houses are being built that are connecting to county water.
So there's already additional demands coming on that water line.
Right, and the county water staff is saying that it's not an issue. And I just sort of
every day it's an issue.
And of course, clarification, I'd ask you, Madam Chairwoman, to keep in mind. So we've had our public hearing time for for and against. We've had rebuttal time. So if you don't mind, if we can close the public hearing and then talk amongst yourself. And if you have any questions for me as the county attorney.
Can I just address the
Yes, and I have a question. The cafe, is that going to be open to the public? The cafe that you're building here, is that the restaurant, is that going to be open to the public or just the people that are?
Just the people who are there, and it will be a small, mobile kitchen. The idea is just to provide simple plates to people who are staying in order, so if they didn't want to leave the property, they didn't have to, and they could eat dinner on the platform outside. The produce will be used from the garden on the property, and the idea is, as the small business owner who would be then local to the community, we would support other local producers and support other small businesses in the area. So we foresee this as an advantage to the county in supporting the small businesses here.
Do you have a second exit out of there in case of a forest fire?
We talked to the fire marshal, and he said again, we're just kind of following the steps that we were told. So we had the initial meeting, and he would come onto the property and we would discuss that. But anything that's required, we'll do, but he hasn't come and done the site visit yet. But he's already said he doesn't see an issue with it, as far as from what I've spoken to him.
Any other questions from Ms. Baudry? Any questions?
Yeah, I got one or two. I know how you people feel about your peace and quiet and all that kind of stuff. But if they don't put this in there, evidently the people that own the property is wanting to do something with it. If you put 200 houses in there in a subdivision, you're gonna have a 20-inch water line and it'll be tore up forever. And you're just adding to your woes with that kind of stuff, so I don't really know how to go on this, because if we don't zone it for this, then 2 years down the road, you could be in a lot worse shape than you are right now.
We'll be in here fighting again.
Yeah.
If, Madam Chairman, if you don't mind, if you don't mind, we please, if possible, close the public hearing and then, of course, just ask for decorum. Appreciate your time.
Okay, there's no other questions from the commission. The public part of this hearing is closed now. Any comments from the commission?
Good point you made, Harold. I agree with you on that. The current agricultural zoning, it would open itself to farm opportunities as well, like poultry houses or something, theoretically.
I know the county has got problems with paving roads because they don't have the right-of-way. They can't pave the roads if they don't have a right-of-way with it. So I don't know what the situation is over there, but from the size of the road and everything, I'd say there's not any right-of-way on it. So I don't know that the road is going to get any better.
It'd be a hard one to add to anyway because so much of it is downhill.
It's a problem. That's what it is. It's a problem.
Any other discussion?
That's all I've got.
Do I have a motion?
There was some, I wouldn't say common ground, but there was a couple of folks that spoke tonight that were not necessarily, there were some obviously that were absolutely no way, no how. There were others who mentioned, I believe somebody mentioned an impact study, somebody else said, I'm not 100% against it, but if it happens, I'd like to see this, and this. Personally, conceptually, I like the concept. I mean, I think it's a neat concept. But I also feel like there are some legitimate concerns here that haven't necessarily been addressed. And nobody's pulling anything weird out of the air against it, in my opinion. These are legitimate concerns. And weighing all that, I don't think I can support this right now. If there was additional information that came in, a little more detail, et cetera, because I mean, a couple of people mentioned that, we want to know more specifics and what have you. About what the project could ultimately morph into, based on what you're saying, I don't think it makes sense to, I don't think you're going to go in there and build a tree house in every tree. I think that would be counterintuitive to what you want to do and counterproductive, but so that's less of a concern, but for people who don't know you or don't maybe, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's nothing to stop that necessarily, other than the fact that it wouldn't, in my opinion, make sense for you to do it. So that would be less of a concern for me, but I see their concern. So I just think, maybe if you can revisit some of these things with some of the couple of the county departments maybe and get their thoughts on it, this water thing's just really got me confused, because
I would be happy to address a couple things. I have spoken with the building official, the land and development staff member, the fire marshal. So we've spoken on conference calls and in person as well. So we've gone ahead and addressed them. They haven't seen any issues with permitting, approval. The fire marshal doesn't see any issues with fire escape or the need for sprinklers or anything like that.
Close that.
Sorry.
Can't take any more here, any more testimony.
I was just going to offer up some
If you
photos.
if you want to table it,
Sorry.
if you want to table it and set it again for another thing, I
I'm just
understand.
gonna.
Back in the 70s, I've been mining business back in that part of the country since the 70s. The problem with water line, that whole mountain rock, shale rock. We worked, when, I forget, it was some big outfit that owned the property. They let us, the guy worked there, go in there and take rock out, mold it, and so forth. We couldn't even run a front end loader if it's sliding like that. And I think that's the problem with the water line. It's actually, it's trucks or whatever's running over the pavement, it's just shaking, and that stuff will shake and then slide. I mean, that's the whole problem. That's my opinion. And I've been in the rock industry for years. And I see the problem. I see what you're talking about.
So what you're suggesting,
Traffic.
Dr. is that maybe it needs to look at more conditions, like a limited number that could be built in there, or stuff like
I don't know how far we can go
Yeah.
with that part. And I'm just saying, I would not be opposed to reviewing it and beef it up a little bit more. I don't know how you address some of the traffic stuff, so, I mean, I suppose.
It's tricky.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh, I'm familiar with it.
Traffic study.
Yeah, that was nice.
What are traffic studies?
I make a move, we table it till we get some more detailed information. I'm not really happy with what we've got myself. I'd like to know a little bit more about it, and you people can think about where you want this, or you want a subdivision in there.
We have a motion to table this. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of tabling SUSC -718-1246, please raise your right hand. The motion is tabled.
Now, is that for the purposes of reopening the evidence to
They
receive
can
more evidence?
reopen it next month. It's my understanding, you know more about that than I do. If it's tabled, then they can come back with more information, or
If you choose to, I mean, it needs to be, the ad needs to run again, it needs to be, the posting needs to stay there. Because, and both sides will be allowed their, they're saying that it would be another hearing at that time. I mean, you can do it that way, or you can just say you're tabling it for further deliberations among yourselves and direct land development to do whatever they do.
How you feel about that?
He knows more than I do.
You want to come back next month, or we want to talk about it more?
Like I say, I'd like to have a few more details on it myself, so put it off till next month.
Phil, do you have any advice on what the best route to take for doing that? Just flipping a coin.
You can direct land development to inquire as to the safety, you've raised safety concerns and you've raised infrastructure concerns as far as the water goes. That was your reason for tabling it.
Right.
You direct land development to investigate those and make a recommendation and give you information regarding those.
And we will see this again next
Yeah,
month.
but I also think that there needs to be some clarification in the record as to what is being asked for. And when I look at the summary of the project concept as submitted by the applicant, it is up to 8 tree houses for rental use, non-public kitchen facilities to serve those rental units, 1 hosting platform, one tree house for spa facilities, a playground that is on the ground, and a one ground structure. And apparently the wood shop does not is not part of the conditional use because it's already a permitted use under AG.
Right.
If they're building those to erect elsewhere, that would not be commercial, considered commercial?
So again, the agriculture zoning district is very different from residential, and it's in some ways allows for the most uses, the most flexibility of any of our zoning districts in Pickens County. I mean, as was mentioned before, I mean, it could be residential, it could be agriculture in terms of, you know, I don't think this property would lend itself to it, but, you know, cattle, chicken houses, you know, we don't get much row crops in Pickens County, but, you know, agribusiness, agritourism, I mean, somebody could have an owner-occupied house, a big house, for example, and have it their own bed and breakfast, and they could just do it on agriculture land. You know, or what they're talking about, you know, having storage and light woodworking that would not be a sawmill. I mean, that would be allowed. There's a lot of different uses in agriculture, and you know, that it works well for a lot of people. It makes it very flexible, but it's, you know, I can also see the other side of it where, I mean, if somebody who's concerned about residential versus agriculture, residential allows residential. Agriculture allows a lot of different things.
So basically, if I have agricultural property, I could start a business on it. Would it not be considered, I put in a trucking company or a company that is selling, and it would not be considered commercial?
In the, you know, planning and zoning business, what we hear a lot of times is mixed use. Agriculture is really the main zoning district in Pickens County where you can truly have mixed use. I mean, there's some folks out there who, you know, they have a small scale operation. They live on their land and they have an agribusiness on their land. I mean, that's allowed, it's encouraged. You know, the heritage of Pickens County as a rural county, and agribusiness, agritourism, that's encouraged, especially on the west part of the county, whether it's southwest or northwest.
I got a question. Provide us with a drawing of what they're gonna do. You know, we need to see something exactly. I mean, you might think a tree house here and a chicken house below it if it's agriculture. I'd like to see something that shows what they're actually gonna do.
So you're talking about architectural renderings?
Yes. I'd like to see something that would show us what they're gonna do with it, you know. You see what I'm getting at?
I do. I think their point though is in this process to make sure that it's even possible before they spend money on renderings and what have you. Which is my take on it.
Chicken and egg.
Well, I know what you're saying.
So what are we tabling? And what is the outcome of it?
The motion was to table your decision, and then I was asking if it was, the reason for that was for the deliberation among the board members, or was it to direct land development to obtain information on certain subjects that were the reason for your tabling it, such as traffic safety and water infrastructure?
Well, technically, Harold, you made the motion, and I'm okay with, you know, letting you guys do a little more investigation on those two items personally, but it was your motion. So.
Whatever we can come up with to get some more information on it. I mean, I'd kind of like to see a rough draft of what it's going to look like over there myself. So, I mean, it don't have to be no high-priced plans. Right.
Well, since they build these, maybe they can show you a picture of something they've already done. Would that be adequate?
That's what y'all direct.
Is the motion I made cover everything we need?
Yeah, but do you want to direct land development to find out any additional information, or just continue deliberation?
And basically, if I table it, we don't have to go through the entire process of open meeting again. We just discuss
You can if you choose to, but you can also, you closed your evidence, you can ask land development to go to go further to help to aid in your deliberations. But you need to give them some direction as to what areas.
Well, like I said, mine was the traffic concern and the water, because there's obviously a discrepancy in what was said here tonight, so.
Yeah, I didn't know we was having all these water problems out there myself.
Ride the road one time, and you'll see all the pictures.
This is close. Well, I didn't know about that end, because I live on the other end. I live on Road 250 end, and we don't, because we have a water station out there. So we do not have those problems, so I was surprised too.
So I'll just note for the record, that the next meeting will be Monday, September 10th at 6 o'clock in the same room. We will also continue to have the sign on the property, and we'll do other things for legal notification. And if y'all choose at that meeting to have another public hearing, that's fine. That's the cautious way of doing things. And but I defer to the county attorney.
Any more comments from the county attorney? Okay, any more board comments on anything other than just this?
Appreciate everybody coming out. It very much helps what we do here. Without input, we're just left to our own devices, so appreciate your concern and your participation.
Okay. Any public comments?
I just want to say thank y'all for letting us be heard. I really appreciate it.
That's where we get our information. Okay. The other thing is adjournment.
I'm sorry.
I want to apologize for my answer to your question. I didn't mean to specify exactly what we're talking about. But a suppressor is actually kind of like a muffler.
Can we adjourn first?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Adjournment is next on the list. I have a motion that we adjourn. Second, all those in favor, right hand. We are adjourned. Okay.